Hello, everybody. I am the Linkzilla, and earlier this afternoon, I got back from watching Godzilla Minus One, and now I'm gonna do my reaction video on it. The thing about it is, I've been trying to figure out how to properly do a reaction video to this movie for the last 6 hours, and I've come to the conclusion that if I want to keep this video succinct and spoiler-free, then I ultimately have to completely change my plans. So, I'm just going to basically give a brief overview of my thoughts on the movie and keep it short and to the point. I literally can't praise this movie enough. When you guys get the actual review of this movie when it comes to physical media that I do, there's going to be a line in that video that says, I believe that Godzilla Minus One might be the one Godzilla movie I've waited my entire life for. And there's very good reason for that. This is a Godzilla movie that's almost entirely character-driven. The plot with Godzilla still happens, but our focus is on characters that we genuinely care about. But not only that, this is probably the best Godzilla that we've gotten in recent years, at least when it comes from Toho. Legendary's Godzilla does a very good job at actually acting like Godzilla, but in the last few years, when it comes to things like Shin Godzilla, the Polygon Godzilla trilogy with Godzilla Earth, and Godzilla Singular Point, Godzilla doesn't really feel like Godzilla, in that he doesn't feel alive or like a character. He just is this object that either stands around, not really having any sort of awareness of his surroundings, and gradually, slowly moves towards his target. This Godzilla, it is big, it is heavy, and it does move slowly, but when it moves with a purpose. You can get the sense that this thing is not only alive, but it's thinking. It has a personality. And it probably is the most compelling version of Godzilla that I've seen as of yet, and definitely has been my favorite, having come out of Japan in recent years, because they didn't necessarily do anything too drastically new with Godzilla, but instead they expanded on ideas that had come before that hadn't gotten the proper expansion as of yet. This is the one Godzilla movie that I've been waiting for because of one particular scene that I can't tell you about because I want this to be spoiler-free. And I don't know when I'm going to do a spoiler video. I want to have the movie in physical media so I can have access to all the movie clips that I need when making that review, but I also know that it's going to take time for that physical media to come out, and I really think that I need it because I feel like I can't adequately articulate what I feel about this movie, considering that it's taken me the last 6 hours to put it into words. I actually watched OmniViewer's video talking about this movie, his reaction to it, and he said what I'm pretty sure most people like us are thinking. This movie is what Shin Godzilla should have been. I'm gonna throw a little extra spicy sauce on that, and I'm gonna tell you even something more drastic. This is what GMK should have been. During my research into Godzilla Minus One, as I was preparing my monstrous moment, I discovered the guy who's writing and directing the movie took inspiration not just from the original 1954 Gojira, but also Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters, All Out Attack, the mouthful that has come to be known as GMK, and that's why I also included GMK clips in my monstrous moment. And I honestly can see all the connections that he drew from GMK, and I gotta say, he did it better. This movie, I think, is better than GMK at portraying Godzilla, and it's a version of Godzilla that I have always wanted to see, but like I said, spoilers. The special effects in this movie are spectacular. I honestly was thinking about making a video by basically saying that the CGI special effects for Godzilla movies look so good because Japan didn't jump on the hype train. Back during the late 90s and early 2000s, everybody was switching to CGI in order to create these creature movies, and more often than not, they weren't ready for it, and that CGI came out looking very rough and very dated, I should think, by today's standards. But Toho has managed to avoid that and has made some really good-looking CGI because they stuck with tokusatsu suitmation practical effects for so long. So now, the technology that they're just burgeoning into has been refined to the point where it looks better. It looks more realistic. Don't get me wrong, there are still a few shots that are rough where Godzilla doesn't move naturally. Like, maybe he moves a bit too quickly for something that is as big and as heavy as him, but it's not nearly as egregious as the bad CGI in Shin Godzilla. And I find it ironic because I'm watching other people's videos on Godzilla Minus One, and much like my brother, when it comes to Shin Godzilla, they're all being fooled. They think that it's a guy in a suit when it's actually CGI. That's how good the CGI looks to them. I can tell that it's CGI because I know that it's not a guy in a suit, and I know what to look for to indicate that it is CGI. But these guys aren't informed that this isn't a guy in a suit, so they see a guy in a suit. It's like the key with not finding out that Clark Kent is Superman. It's not the glasses, it's what you believe. People will see what they want to believe, and they want to believe that mild-mannered Clark Kent could never be the Man of Steel. Therefore, people that are watching this movie that aren't in the know, they want to believe that Godzilla is a man in a suit. And I find that incredibly charming. I am just completely lifted up right now because I'm looking all across YouTube and I'm seeing channels that have never once mentioned Godzilla in their lifetime are picking up this movie and doing reviews on it. Now, that could be because this year's theater-going experience has been absolute garbage, which ultimately means that Godzilla Minus One is going to take the cake. Best film of the year, purely by those merits alone. But it also excites me because even after the 2014 Godzilla movie and now the MonsterVerse is taking off, I still think that Godzilla is a very niche thing. But the idea that not only is this a 100% Toho-controlled, Japanese, foreign-made Godzilla film, not even dubbed, completely with the original subtitles, gaining mainstream appeal, it's also showing what Godzilla originally was, and probably shattering preconceived notions that people might have had for Godzilla. That people might see the original campy Godzilla movies, a guy in a rubber monster suit doing flying drop kicks and doing the silly Godzilla dance and all those weird, funky Godzilla movies from the 70s. No, that's not what Godzilla originally was. He is something to be afraid of. And I feel like this movie is finally going to show this version of Godzilla to the rest of the world, and now the rest of the world has a reason to pay attention to it. So I can't praise this movie enough. Keep an eye out from me in the coming months, because one way or another, I'm going to get my hands on this movie in physical form. I'm going to make a completely spoiler-rific review of this movie because I cannot praise it enough with my current resources. If you guys can, go see the movie while it is still in theaters. It's only in theaters for one weekend. I cannot recommend it enough. You're definitely going to have an experience watching this film. So, that's all the time that we've got for this video. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later. Well, kid, you look like you're in a pretty good position right now. Not only is your new Monstrous Moment video really taking off and actually getting some surprisingly good feedback, you're actually getting a whole lot more new subscribers, and for the first time in more than a decade, Toho has managed to put out a Godzilla film that actually managed to please you. You must feel real good about yourself right now. Well, truth be told, Carl, while I am excited about what this new Godzilla movie has for the future of Godzilla at Toho, now we have to swing our attention back towards the West and see if Legendary can keep up their end of the bargain with Toho. What do you mean, kid? You see, ever since the MonsterVerse started and Toho decided that they were in fact going to revive Godzilla, the plan is that they would space out their releases. Legendary would release a film one year, and Toho would release their own Godzilla film, or any kind of Godzilla media, the following year. And they would space it out so that the wait for new Godzilla content never felt too long. So far, it hadn't really panned out, but with Godzilla -1, I've got my hopes up, and have my faith restored that Toho knows what they're doing with Godzilla. But now it's up to Legendary again to stick the landing with their new upcoming film. And you're apprehensive about that? Let's just say that I'm giving it my due caution, Carl. A new empire is in view.